Hey there. Today I will be talking about discourse and cultural anthropology. So, to comprehend the academic discourse of cultural anthropology, you must take a multifaceted perspective to understand the uniquity of its rhetorics. The ubiquitous categorization of anthropology is divided into four main scopes, which is archaeological, biological, cultural, and linguistic. Today, I'm going to be focusing primarily on the cultural anthropological discourse and its all encompassing focal view. So, cultural anthropology mainly studies the cultures and its different aspects of the concepts and data of the varying linguistics, environments, and histories. So basically, we're going to talk about people of the world, how people do things differently in various cultures, depending on the environment, how they are raised, nature versus nurture, so on and so on. But in order to best analyze the cultural anthropological questions and findings in scholarly articles, readers must succumb to the philosophical and scientific clash that takes place in the writing. Throughout my presentation, I'm going to discuss three articles that I analyzed for the similarities and differences in cultural anthropological discourse. The first, written in 2018 by Irving, is called A Life Lived Otherwise, Contingency and a Necessity in an Interconnected World. And then also in 2018 by Tamarkin, Time and Relational Possibility, which is the Cultural Anthropology in 2017. And then finally, Art and Anthropology by 25 Years of the Traffic and Culture, written by Zitzwitz in 2022. But the foundation to all scholarly articles is built on research and evidence that is capable of answering the scientific questions. Evidence. Proper evidence is quintessential to any credible claim that is portrayed in anthropological discourse. Anthropological discourse asks rhetorical questions that can be answered in ethnographic studies, such as the scholarly writings that utilize such research from credited studies influence the logos and ethos of the paper. This is the authority, so we're going to kind of talk about the evidence that goes on within to give it more credibility. To attain this authority that I talk about in cultural studies, evidence is the first-hand observations that is needed to further develop deeper anthropological questions. In Irving's study, In a Life Lived Otherwise, Contingency and Necessity, he speaks upon his time primarily spent amongst the family in Uganda. So he's talking about his firsthand experiences and observations that he made of this family and how they lived their lives differently than the way Western societies do today. Not only is the differences essential to his writing and his studies, but it's his firsthand knowledge. It's not taken from another source. It's not taken from other perspectives or takes on these societies, but it's firsthand observations, witnessing what goes on. So in all three of these articles analyzed, numerous amounts of references were included. So in A Life Lived Otherwise, 37 references were cited. In the paper Art and Anthropology, 22 sources were analyzed. And then coming in with the most, which is 173 references. That's a lot of references to go through. So there's a lot of authority, a lot of credibility in the writing by Zitzwitz, which is A Time and Relational Possibility. Another really quintessential point in anthropological discourse is the rhetorical language used. So the linguistics of presenting such evidence plays an equivalent role to the rhetorics just as much as the evidence. The way we portray our words, how we present it to the audience, to people alike, to people who know a lot, who are studying this, or just our peers. So the sophisticated use of scientific dialogue is heavily prevalent in all anthropological discourse. To ensure the proper use of logos and ethos, the linguistics provide an eloquent sense of depiction to evidence. Again, in Zitowitz, time and relational possibility. I'm going to switch to the other side. All right. The inclusion of references is really essential to showing the reader how much knowledge, how much credibility and authority that goes into the studies itself and the writings there are. So it's the thought behind it. Knowing that the author has come to a great deal of work to portray this evidence, portray this knowledge, is really authoritative in its writing. And finally, we're going to talk about the structure and anthropological discourse. With any writing piece, structure is really important, with just outlining a piece of writing to easily read through it, find what you're looking for. But specifically in cultural anthropological discourse, it's really, really easy to get lost, right? This writing is really dense. It's really hard to understand, but with proper structure and outline, we're easily able to sort through the confusion and the really linguistically in depth that each author goes to. But a common consistency I've found between the papers referenced are the labeling of subclaims. So basically the titles of each point we're going into, such as this presentation, the structure, the rhetorical language, and the evidence, right? This is the structure of the presentation. We're just outlining what I'm speaking upon so you can come back to and overall have a better understanding of what I'm talking about. And in cultural anthropological discourse, there's a lot of different subclaims that we're going to be speaking upon. Culture has a lot of components that go into it, from the linguistics to the environments to the people to the histories. Everything can go in such depth that it's really easy to get lost. So in the actual writing of it, and trying to analyze what was going on in the field, the structure is quintessential to this. With this in-depth investigation that I have examining the academic discourse within the writings of Tamarkin, Zitowitz, and Irving, providing examples of the unique rhetorical uses. Through the structures, outlining a map of subclaims, developing the reader's insight, while the evidence and rhetorical analysis support rhetorical strategies in ethos and logos to allude to authority and credibility consistently through the text. Cultural anthropological discourse dives into a multi-layered perspectives, conveying the numerous perspectives covered. It's a really hard topic to touch upon, and it's discourse, but I hope this made a little more sense in understanding its